Welcome to Spirit Journey Collective. I'm your host, Sarah Tai. Get ready for compelling conversations with guests of all walks of life who believe they have found their purpose. Together, we will uncover unique backstories, hearing the raw experiences that led them to the work they are doing today. Let's expand our minds together with the captivating stories and inspiration that awaits. Welcome back to another episode of Spirit Journey Collective. I have a really exciting guest today. His name is Christopher Rausch. He is known as the No Excuse Coach. He has a couple of podcasts that he runs as well. And I just can't wait to really pick his brain and talk to him about everything he has to offer. So thank you for being here, Christopher.
It's a pleasure, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to diving deep into this conversation and learning more about you as well.
Awesome. So we're going to both learn about each other today. It's going to be great. What I would love to start with is, why don't you share with our listeners a little bit about you, a little bit about what you do, the services you offer, and really who you are.
Cool. I can do that. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible since I tend to be a little bit verbose when I talk, as you know. But anyway, I'm Christopher Rausch, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me here, Sarah. I appreciate it. I am known as the No Excuses Coach. I've been the No Excuses Coach now for probably about a good 12, 15 years. I've been coaching for over about 25 years now when I look back on my life. And I became a coach before the word coach or life coach came into existence. And the reason why I became a coach and became a professional speaker, ultimately a podcaster, an author, etc., is that I found from my story and my journey, I was able to help people see their story and their journey in a different way. And because I had went through so much stuff in my life, I was able to draw upon lessons that I learned, or either I learned from coaching people. It helped me be able to take those tough times, realize the lessons out of them, and then go back and help other people. So I've done that with adults for about the last 25 years. I've been mentoring at-risk kids for about the same amount of time. So kids that were just like me, that were homeless and out on the streets. And so I became that because it was my way of giving back. And then I found through that journey, Sarah, that I found that was my gift, right? You know, we're all born with gifts. You have your gift, obviously. I didn't know what my gift was until I started coaching, until I started realizing that I have the power to get people to change their opinion and their beliefs about themselves. I have the ability to get people to see things in such a way that they find that they're empowered and they have courage and they have confidence and they're able to do the things they haven't been able to do because they eliminate their excuses, they eliminate their tolerations in favor of just getting results. And so that's why I do what I do, and I love doing it. Could do it all day.
Thank you for sharing that with me. Yeah, that's amazing. And really, I love how you're able to see that you went through a pretty rough time, which I want to get into. I would love to share your story because your story, I know it already. It's pretty incredible. And I love that you're able to take something that was so rough and what many people may not be able to get out of themselves and turn it into this inspiring tale to help other people who either are where you were, or maybe they're not there, but they're still stuck in their life in a different way. Mm-hmm. So I love that you're able to take such a difficult experience and turn it around to help other people. And so with that, would you mind sharing your backstory on how you got into the work that you're doing?
Well, Sarah, it all started back in 1969. It was February 26th, and yours truly came bouncing into the world. Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. Actually, my birthday's coming up. So yeah, it started back in 1969. I was born to a mother with various psychological disorders. Didn't know my biological dad. He was actually married with kids of his own. I found this out later. So I grew up in a very abusive household. My mother was on welfare and food stamps, and we lived in a very, 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 very bad part of Los Angeles County here in Southern California called Inglewood. I was the only white kid in the black neighborhood. And so by the time I became about 5 or 6 years old, it was time for me to get out of that neighborhood because it was becoming a little bit dangerous for me and for my mom. So we moved to here in Southern California to another city. At the age of 6 years old, I thought that my life would actually start to balance out and actually be normal, if you will. My mom's boyfriend came and moved in with us, and I thought I was going to finally have a dad, and I was going to go to school, and I just thought my life was going to be like what I saw on television, right? Mr. and Mrs. Cunningham, you know, whatever it might be. Pick out your favorite, you know, TV parents, and I thought I was going to possibly get that. Unfortunately, that was not the case. The physical and the mental abuse continued in the home. My mother and her boyfriend had physical altercations where I had to call the police. And one time he almost got arrested. There was a whole bunch of stories in that. Myself, I was bullied and had my butt kicked from everybody in my school, from everybody on my block. I literally grew up without any self-confidence, Sarah. I was told that I was stupid. I was told to shut up. And then when I came home from school in the 7th grade, my mom informed me that she was losing the house because she had tried to save a cat by spending $5,000 on this cat that had leukemia. It was her favorite cat. And unfortunately, the cat died and we didn't have the rent money. So at the age of 13, I became homeless. And not only that, I got to move into the family station wagon with 18 cats and 4 dogs because, again, my mother was very, had different psychological parameters for her reality of belief and everything. So, yeah, we moved into a 1969 Country Squire station wagon with 18 cats and 4 dogs. In the ensuing 4 years, I went to hell and back. I was carjacked. I tried to kill myself twice. Fortunately, I sucked at it. Had all sorts of things, dug through dumpsters for food, dug through dumpsters for aluminum cans, harassed by the cops, drugs, alcohol. I mean, everything that you can imagine. Pack it into 4 years. And then I'm 17 years old. Long story short, because it's a kind of a long story. Somebody puts a gun to my head, and I tell the guy to pull the effing trigger if he's going to pull it. I said, if you're going to pull the trigger, pull it. And I figured it was going to be click, and that was going to be it, and I was going to be gone, and my mother would have to deal with life without me. And oh boy, I was so excited for that. I'm like, pull the trigger. Fortunately, guy ran out of this motel room that where this is all happening and said, no, 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 don't do that. Him and his mom are cool. Him and his mom are cool. And in that moment, Sarah, I had to literally think, okay, I'm 17 years old. I'm doing drugs. I'm smoking cigarettes. I'm drinking alcohol. I'm working my ass off. I'm working like 2 or 3 jobs. I'm working telemarketing. I'm working construction to get us to be able to just stay in this cheap, ugly, nasty, prostitute, drug filled motel near Disneyland, by the way, which was kind of funny. The happiest place on earth. There was this motel right on the side of it that was just not what they were advertising for Disneyland, by the way. And I realized that if I didn't get out of that situation, I was going to wind up in jail. I was going to wind up dead, or I was going to have to take responsibility for my life. And up until that point, I was living my life for my mom. I was doing everything she wanted me to do. I was her little whipping boy. It became not a relationship of mother and son. It became more of a weird relationship, almost like cohabitators. Like I was going to jobs and making the money and giving it to her, and then she was spending it on whatever. And it just got very, very dysfunctional. And so an opportunity came open for me to get out of that situation and go live in an apartment with some other guys. And I thought to myself, if I don't take this opportunity right now, what's going to happen to my life? Like literally, I'm at this point right now. I can't joke around anymore. I'm at a point. I'm 17 years old, right? And I decided to leave the situation. I went back and I checked on my mom every night because I had to leave her in a very dangerous situation, but I had to get myself out of there. And as a result of getting myself out of there, I met other people. Long story short, I met a girl, and her dad took an interest in me, and with long hair, cigarette smoking, living in an apartment with 5 guys. They were on the right side of town. I was on the wrong side of town, if you know what I mean. And he took a belief in me, and he said, Christopher, you're only limited by the parameters of your own mind. And he suggested, he goes, I invite you to go back to school. I said, said you can get this thing called a GED. I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm so stupid. I don't know what a GED is, right? Because all my life, my mom told me I was stupid. I did poorly in school. Friends beat up on me. Everybody, I just didn't fit in. I didn't have any self-confidence. So I'm like, you want me to go back to school? I dropped out in the 7th grade. It's now everybody's graduating. My age is graduating from 12th grade. Like, I can't make up that time. That's ridiculous. I still have to work my jobs, blah, blah, blah. And he says, you can get this. And so I took that imperfect action. This is kind of what I was talking about the other night. Is I took that imperfect action. I had no idea what to do. I thought I'm going to go sign up to take this GED test. They're going to laugh so hard that they're going to put me in jail because I'm like, they're going to put me in school jail. Like, this guy's an idiot. He shouldn't be out on the streets. Not to that extent, but I just really thought that something bad was going to happen because everything had always happened in my life was bad. And so I finally found a place that I could take this test, and I took the test, and I was surprised to find out that I was actually pretty smart. And I made up high school in about 3 to 4 months, took my GED test again, passed, went back to the guy and I said, look, I got my GED. I'm good. And he goes, what do you think about college? And I'm like, what do you want from me, dude? Like, I'm working 3 jobs. I got the GED. And he's like, just try, Chris, just go there and just take one class. Just take one class. And I went there as imperfect as it was. And I knocked on the door and I said, hi, I'd like to come to school here. And about 3 hours later, I walked out with a business degree or a business major, my first class. And then ultimately, the long story short is that I spent 12 years in school taking accelerated classes to get my master's degree the same year I bought my first house. And so my whole story is the fact that I came from nothing. I literally tried to end my journey many, many times. I was carjacked one time. I mean, there's so many different stories. And ultimately, because I changed my view and my belief about life happening for me and not to me, I was able to start shifting all the other beliefs in my life to enable me to be able to become the successful person that I am today. So there's no ill regards about that. I'm actually writing this book. It's actually going to be out later this year. It's called It's Just You and Me, Kid. If people want to check out the synopsis of it, it's called, if you could just go to itsjustyourandmekid.com. It takes you to my website and it gives a synopsis on it. It's going to be a bestseller. It's going to be a movie. But it's all, the reason why I became that coach is because if I could go through all those experiences personally, have those beliefs about myself that I was not worthy, to switch that all around to have this incredible life that I have now, I know anybody else can do it out there who's listening and watching. You just have to have that readiness to be able to take that imperfect action. So that's my story, is as short as I can say it.
It is truly incredible that you were able to go through all of that. And I'm sure that's just, like you said, it's just the short version, right? Like
Oh yeah.
there's things that happen in between all of that, but it's just incredible that you went through that and yet you still found that will to go beyond, right? Even though you didn't believe it was possible, you found someone else to lean on, right? To kind of lend
Yeah.
you their belief. And that was like your starting point. And so now it's just so cool. This is one of the reasons I love backstories. And it's like that person who gave you their belief. Now you took that belief and learned to believe in yourself. And now you're taking your own belief and handing it off to your clients and doing
Amen.
the exact same thing. You're just recycling it, right?
Yeah.
But
Paying it
uh,
forward, really. I mean, that's
yeah,
how I live my life, Sarah, is I pay it forward. The movie, if anybody's never seen this movie, it's from the 90s or 2000s. I don't know. It's Pay It Forward with Haley Joel Osment. Have you ever seen it?
I think I was too young at the time to like
Yeah.
really watch it when it came out.
I'm a few decades older than you. Yeah, watch it, Pay It Forward, and then also watch Patch Adams. Those two movies back in those days really inspired me. Number one, that we can all make a difference. This little boy makes this difference. He pays it forward, and the ripple effect of what he does impacts this world. You got to watch it. It's amazing. And then also Patch Adams, which is Robin Williams doing this real life story of this doctor who had unconventional ways of making kids laugh and making kids, go through cancer treatments. And it talks about how we can be unconventional in our own lives, that we need to fly. As I say, I tell people to fly their own freak flag, right? Whatever that means to you. I said, just be you. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I did not always do this. I was always the suit and tie guy. I was a professional speaker wearing suit and ties and very successful at it, but I was not being me. And so at the end of the day, the stories about, with Patch Adams is like, be you, shine your light, be your unique self. Don't let people squash that. Don't let people push that down. You think about when we're kids, oh, they're so cute and they're so creative and they're so bubbly and they're so adventurous and da 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 da. And then one day, what do? The parents start conditioning us like, no, Chris, you need to be quiet. No, Chris, you need to stop dreaming. No, Chris, you need to be realistic. No, Chris, you need to get good grades. You need to go to college. You need to get a job. You need to buy a house. You need to get married. You need to have kids. You need to retire. You need to do all these things, right? Because that's what successful people do. That's what happy people do. No, happy people get connected with themselves first. They love themselves first. They realize that life that has happened to them previously is all electrical energy in their brain, and that they're able to sit there and make those cognitive choices to say, listen, I'm not going to repeat the patterns that have happened in my life, the cycles of abuse, the cycles of addiction, the cycles of whatever. I've broken all those cycles. The psychological cycles. My mother gave me a list of psychological disorders that my grandmother had. She said, in case you ever need it, here's what grandmother had. It was schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, da, 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 da. So my mom grew up with that. My mother's list was a couple of things shorter. So she did a little bit better to improve that. Like I had a pretty decent childhood, even though the physical abuse was bad. She tried to make me normal. She tried to allow me to be normal. She didn't have the function to help me groom myself to be normal, to have a backbone and to stand up for myself. So I got constantly beat up everywhere I went. But ultimately, when I started talking to people and realizing that the juice of life is to just be yourself, love yourself, go out there, make a difference in the world with your gifts, be grateful, not hateful, find solutions, not problems, and enjoy the moments in your life. And it's pretty incredible what it is that you can achieve with relative little work, right? The work will be hard, yes, but on the other side, it'll be worth it. And that's what I've continued to prove all along in my life with anybody I've helped, or the experiences that I still go through that challenge me.
I love that. And I really especially love how you talk about being authentic to yourself and how that should be the starting point. But society, the old paradigm is exactly what you said. It's let kids be kids until a certain point,
Yeah.
and then cut them off, right? But that's something that I'm learning for myself, that the kids are doing it right.
Right. Yeah. 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 I'm learning from my son. I know that for me, I've become more kid-like. I've gone back to play more. I've gone back to remove that idea like, oh, I don't play in the sand. I don't want to get dirty. I don't like sand. There was this point where I was at the beach, and I can share this with you. It was really cool. I've learned so many lessons in my life, Sarah. It's great. Becoming a dad later in life has really helped me out as well. My son's 7. I think we talked about that before. I was at the beach one time, and my son was, he had sand everywhere. He had sand in his eyes. He had sand in everywhere. And he's like, come on, Dad, get on come in the sand and play with me. And I was playing with him, but I was sitting sitting in my beach chair, and I really don't like sand on me. And for whatever reason, I could go out in the water and everything, but I just don't like sand sticking to me. I don't think most people do, but I had this preconceived notion like, no, I'm not going to get sandy because I don't want to. I don't feel comfortable when I'm sandy. And then here's my kid I'm staring at having a blast. And so I thought to myself, I'm like, if I was a 5-year-old kid right now, what dad would I want? And I want everybody to really hear this. I'm a 5-year-old kid right now. What dad do I want? Do I want dad that sits in the chair and doesn't want to get sandy? Or do I want dad that's going to get in the sand and play with me and flip it up in the air and make racetracks and go down and get more buckets of water and be excited and do all those things that I did when I was a kid? And so I stopped in that minute. I got out of my chair. I got in the sand. I had more fun with them. I'm like, what would I be like as a 5-year-old? And I gave myself that permission. And I think that's important. That word, I found that word is very key in people's lives. Give yourself the permission to play. Give yourself the permission to do the things that you used to do. Like I have coloring books. I love to color. They're colorful language coloring books, right? So they have where they're all, and it's really pretty flowers, but it just, they have set sentences for adults. And I just sit there and I color, and I found my wife got it for me. And I just sit there and I find that after 45 minutes, I've mellowed my mind out. I've had some fun. I've been able to release the control in my mind to try to find answers to things that I'm struggling with. And I find that those answers come to me easier because I'm in that play mode. I'm in like, as you probably talk about, the vibrational frequency, which is what I'm learning about, the different, theta, beta, and all those different levels, and then the chakras and all that different stuff. I'm learning about all that. And I'm realizing when we're in those modes, then we're in a higher vibration to receive messages that perhaps are there for our greater good, as opposed to when we're in a low vibrational energy and we're pissed and we're mad and we're blaming everybody and the government should do this and the teachers should do this. I'm so sick of people saying like I just had a conversation with somebody the other day, the teachers should be doing this. And I'm like, well, great. Are you a part of the PTA? No. Are you a part of the school board system? No. Are you part of the city council? No. What are you doing to change it? Nothing. Shut up. Be a part of the solution or just don't do anything at all. But bitching doesn't get you a part in the conversation. Let's change it together. So that's the way I advocate it for is to people to have that center of belief in themselves, the trust, be playful, get in that zone. And then the next thing is to surround yourself with the people who support that. And so oftentimes we get into that mode. I'm going to do these things. I'm going to do these things. And what do our friends tell us? Oh my God, Sarah, that's so stupid. What are you going to do that for? People are going to laugh at you. People are going to do this. Oh my God, Chris, and wearing a bandana and a hat. People aren't going to take you seriously. They're going to think you're a juvenile. They're going to wonder if you're a drug, whatever. That's your life. I came here to have a pretty kick-ass time and doing it my way. And I connect with people my way. And I don't need to connect with every single person in the world. I need to connect with the people I need to connect with. And that's what changed my life. As you could tell, when I got around the people that were smarter and brighter than me, and I took those lessons, because success leaves clues, it's pretty incredible what you can accomplish. It's not rocket science. And especially today, everybody's got a computer in their hands. Everybody, even homeless people have fucking phones now. So let's let somebody the other day, or no, earlier today said, Chris, my husband has these guitars. How do you think he should sell them? And I said, I gave him a couple of ideas. I said, well, it's a collection. You might be able to sell this. And then I Googled how to sell my guitar collection. And I sent her the Google link. And I said, here's a bunch of information that might help you. It's like, come on, let's take responsibility. Let's go look for the answers. Let's apply the answers. Let's learn from the outcomes. And let's keep having that sense of adventure about solving our problems like we would if we were kids. We never gave up when we were kids. We kept doing the stuff that we wanted to do, whether we got hurt or not. What do you think about that, Sarah? I mean, as far as, you have a kid, you're seeing life like that. Has it impacted you in the way that you play now?
I've learned a lot being a parent. Playing is still hard for me. That's definitely a struggle that I try to get down to her level. That part is really, really difficult for me. But I have definitely, beyond the playing, I've learned a lot about like parenting in general, like watching my parents growing up, realizing that they're human beings, and learning that like they were doing the best they could with what they were given. And then being able to give myself permission to now parent my daughter differently than they parented me, and knowing that that's okay. And so not only that, but talk about shadow work as far as like the way that I was raised. And there's a little kid in me that when I'm gentler with her, there's a little kid in me get like almost like throwing a tantrum. Like, well, I didn't get treated that way. I wasn't given grace. And being able to like sit with my little self and be like, it's okay, you should have gotten more grace, and now we're going to pass that on, but it's definitely like an inner war for sure. And I'm learning every day. My daughter, you've met her.
She's amazing. She's such a personality.
I know. And she's just got this bright light about her. And so my thing is my goal is to not squash that light.
Yep.
And it's a little challenging because I know you've probably seen it too. She could be a lot sometimes. And I have to like teach her the parameters of where she can go with it, because there are some boundaries that have to be in place, like not climbing on the doors in meeting rooms, for instance.
Yeah, that was funny.
But beyond that, I love how she just connects with everyone. She doesn't hold herself back. She wants to go make some friends. She goes and makes some friends. And I can't go to the grocery store with her and get in and out. I know we're going to be in there talking to people. And the introvert in me struggles with that a little bit. But
Mhm.
again, it's for me, it's for her. And I don't want her to feel stifled. So while I do struggle with that play aspect, I try and find play in like other ways, but like the pretend and I have such a hard time with pretend. But I love how you did phrase that. What kind of parent would I want at that age? And I think that that's something that I'm going to really take to heart. You know, they are so imaginative too. And I think that's the biggest thing we lose when we grow up, right? We're told to be realistic. We're told to, our dreams are too far out of reach. So we got to pick something to settle for. And that's not what we were taught as kids. As kids, we could be anything. And that's what
Yep.
we were told. You could be anything. And then you reach a certain age and then suddenly you can't. And one thing I've learned in the last 4 or 5 years is no, you can be anything.
Yes, you
It's
can. You got to
so
dream it. You got to believe it. You got to achieve it. You got to do that. And the other thing I want to stress also with this, Sarah, is that can happen with that question can happen in any part of our life. So the one thing I want to stress to everybody listening to this and thinking about this is it's not perfect. Like somebody asked me the other day, I was being interviewed for another podcast and they talked about, how you turn it off, like how to be present, how to be in the moments. And so what I found for me, especially with Jackson, is that I was always so go, 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 go. Like I accomplished a lot. Like I was very successful in my business. I was very successful in everything that I do because I go, go, go. And I'm afraid to turn that off because if I turn that off, oh my God, will the results stop? Will all the plates fall to the ground and crash? Right. So what I started finding out is that when I would go start to play with them, I'd still be in work mode, or I'd still be in podcast mode, or I'd be in, rah, rah, Chris mode, or I'd be in husband mode, or I'd be whatever it is. And then I've got this kid right here. And I'm like, okay, I need to stop this. And I would try to reset myself while I'm with him. But then I've got all these conflicting, I'm mad and I'm frustrated. I'm like, so now what I do is I'm very intentional. And that's one of the words that I really want people to hear tonight in this conversation is intention. Like, what is my intention? So when I pause, like after this, I have an hour break before I do my show. And my son's home. I already went and picked him up, as I told you. So I'm going to go downstairs and play with him. I'm going to clean up my kitchen. So I'm going to sit here for a second and decompress from being in Chris mode and from being in this particular aspect of my life and sharing these things with you. When I go downstairs, he doesn't care what I know about motivation. He doesn't care what I know about life. He cares about does dad know about Roblox? Does he know about Minecraft? Does he, is he caring about the things that I'm doing? Does he want to play Legos? And so I'll sit here for myself and I will ask myself that question. Okay, when I go downstairs, who is he expecting to see? And then I have to sit there and I reset that. Okay, I need to let go of the fact that I've got a show in an hour. I've already done my preparation. I'm good. I know in my heart of hearts that everything always flows perfectly from that show. So I can let that go. I'm going to go downstairs and enjoy all those moments because I know when I enjoy those moments that's going to make the show even that much better because I'm going to come back upstairs into my studio. I'll set a moment to reframe like, okay, I'm not a dad anymore. I'm still in a fun mode, but now I'm going to be in a mode where I want to impact on people. I want to think about ways I can strategically say things in a way that lands for them. Like when I pointed out the fact of setting the intention. So for me, it's being that intentional point like, okay, I'm going to go spend time with my wife. Okay. She doesn't care about motivation, Chris. She doesn't care about work, Chris. She doesn't care about podcast, Chris. Okay, what kind of husband would I want to be with if I was her? So it all works all the same ways. Like, oh, she would want a husband that would walk in there and say, oh, babe, how was your day? You know what? I'm sure you're probably pretty sore. Let me give you a massage. It's not my first line of thoughts to do those types of things. I never saw it as I was growing up. I've learned it. So I need to think about, okay, what would she want? What would make her feel special? Like I'm tired and I'm all these other things and I want people, but what can I do to make her have that extra special attention? Because we always give so much attention to our customers. We always give so much attention to our coworkers. We give attention to our friends. We do all these, and then we come home and exhausted. And then who do we dump on? The person we love the most, whether it's our spouse, our best friend, and they always see that part aside of us. So we need to sit there and be intentional with that and say, okay, how can I be a little bit more of a better husband? How can I get it to that? So tomorrow when she talks to her friend, that she says, oh my God, Chris came in the other night and rubbed my feet. He never rubs my feet. That was so cool. How can I do that? And so I think, part of living this amazing life that we can do is taking ourselves out of ego, right? Which for some people, I'm not a religious person, but I do like the phrase ego is edging God out because I think that's where we lose our connection to ourselves. And that's what I really been in the journey of for my nearly 55 years on this planet is that journey to connect with myself and to let go of the monkey brain thoughts because those are always going to be there. That's our brain. That's electrical energy that's there to design to keep us safe. But in our soul and our spirit, we're here to love. We're here to experience. We're here to have excitement. We're here to share our gifts. And so I think we have to really be cognizant of those distinctions and be deliberate about that and surround ourselves with those people who are going to support that.
that's really profound. And I didn't even realize until you put it in that perspective. I think that's a lot of what happens to me too, because I'm a single parent. So it's work work is kind of like my life, like between my, social media or when I'm doing readings or when I'm thinking about, okay, what am I going to put out there today? And now that I'm doing this podcast, oh, what do I need to edit today? So I'm like, I have a lot more on my plate. And I think that that's something that I have struggled with in the past when I've sat down, for instance, with my daughter. I'm thinking about the next thing,
Yeah.
and it does make it harder for me to be present. Like, that was just so key. So thank you for sharing that. That's true. That's where being mindful and being present is. And it's so funny because I do try to practice that as well. Life kind of just happens and you're not in control. You're not mindful and present. You're just kind of on for the ride. And that's not the point of life. The point of life is to live it by moment, because every moment is where life happens. And that's something I teach in my readings is past is gone, future hasn't come yet and doesn't exist yet. The only thing that exists is the now.
Mhm.
And so it's remembering to be mindful of now. There's so many wonderful takeaways just from that, just from everything we've discussed so far. And I just so appreciate that.
It's time to take a short break from our wonderful speaker. Are you in the need of guidance around love, career, family, life, or purpose? Embark on a spiritual journey inward with an intuitive tarot reading. Depending on what you're needing and looking for, I offer private one-on-one sessions as well as personalized email readings. It doesn't matter what the question is. A reading with me provides connection with your higher self, offering curated personal messages, or what I like to refer to as spiritual roadmaps, guiding you to the future outcome you desire. Readings are insightful and affordable. If you'd like more information or to schedule a reading with me, please see the link below.
I would love to shift to maybe a little bit more of a spiritual conversation. One of my favorite things to talk about is synchronicities. And because it's just, I always get chills and it's just exciting, but also it's kind of cool. The more I talk about synchronicities with guests on my podcast, the more synchronicities I see like in my own day-to-day life. So it even makes me
Mhm.
wonderful to look for those. So I would love to hear a synchronicity story, whether it's about how you found your purpose or if it's just a really cool paranormal story you'd like to share in general. Do you have something like that you'd like to share?
Sure, sure. I mean, I've had so many synchronicities, and I really do believe that about life is when you look back on your life and think about all the different little forks in the road. Like, oh, if I didn't make this decision to go out with this guy, I might not have my daughter. If I didn't make out this decision to go back to school, I may be working construction. When we think about all those little forks in our road, right? I think about the fact that I've been introduced over the years to past lives, and like sometimes we retain lessons that we have not learned in our past lives, or we retain genetic stressors that are handed down to us biologically from our family, right? My mother was 26 years old when she had me, so she was 25 years old when she conceived. The stress she had in her life with a 7-year with a 6-year-old daughter at that time on welfare, all that stuff. I started realizing that there's more to me than this particular experience of the human existence, right? And so I started diving deep into that. And so somebody who is my massage therapist said, "Oh my God, we were talking about this stuff, past lives and whatnot." Said, "Oh my God, my girlfriend's an amazing reader. I think I can't remember exactly how they put it, but you should have a reading by her." And I said, okay, because I thought about this story and thinking about what you do. And I was like, all right, a little fishy. Like, okay, my wife is really into it. And I've seen her have really positive experiences trying to find and communicate with her dad who died when she was young. And I've seen her have some really bad experiences. So I was like, I kept an open mind, but I was like, all right, I'll pay the whatever it was. And we're having this experience. I still have it on recording. It was in 2019, me not believing very much. And she says, and we're not on Zoom, so she can't see me. We're just on a telephone call. And I didn't give her any information about what I did or anything else. And she goes, are you a musician? And I was like, well, I mean, you could tell, like, if you guys are watching this on the Zoom, I have two guitars behind me. I look like a rocker. I look like a musician. I play guitar. I sing sometimes. I'm not a great musician, but I love it. Music is in my blood. I literally have a tattoo that like has a cord that's plugged into my arm. So I told her, I said, I really love music. I said, but I said, I don't have the skills or the talent for it. I said, I have the drive for it, but I use my words and my actions when I speak on stage to people to motivate and inspire with them with my words. So I'm kind of a rock star, but I just don't play instruments. I just don't do it with words and music. And she goes, I'm finding something that's related to your past life. She goes, in a past life, she goes, you were a great music composer. And I said, oh, cool. She goes, yeah, you were a great music composer. You were very successful, but you kept self-sabotaging yourself. She goes, you would get to a certain point in your success, and then something would happen and you would self-sabotage yourself. It was about worth. And she goes, I believe that your goal and your mission in this life is not to sabotage your success for what you truly want. So don't play it safe. And so there was this whole thing about this. And she goes, are you on television right now? And I said, as a matter of fact, I said, I am. I said, I do a podcast because this is 2019. This is when I first started my podcast. I used to do a radio show before that, but it wasn't on video. No, that's what it was. That's right. I was doing my podcast, but I wasn't doing it on video. She goes, I see you on television. She goes, I see you on a bunch of TVs. And I was like, okay, cool. I'd love to be a talk show host. I think I'd be great at it. And so there was all these different things. After the reading, then I started doing my video podcast. And then after a while, it was like a year and a half later, I go to my YouTube. I've got over 500 followers. I've got all these metrics and everything. And I'm like, I'm on a bunch of TVs. My show, I'm like, my podcast, Raw and Unscripted, is in the top 10% of podcasts globally. Doesn't mean everybody watches it, but I know the views that I see on YouTube and people watch it. So I'm like, all the different things she talked about, the synchronicity of me getting that reading at that particular point in my life really solidified for me that, oh yeah, perhaps I get that success and then something happens. So like I always use the reason why I wasn't successful as a speaker and as a coach as much as I should be was that I had my day job. And so in November of 2019, I left my day job. It was a mutual agreement. They invited me to leave. I said, okay, well, it's cool. They gave me a severance package. And what I thought was the worst day of my life became the best day of my life because then I realized I had no more excuses. And so since then, it's been 4 years now. I've been successful in maintaining myself. I'm not making the same money that I was. It's a lot more stressful, as you know, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm living on purpose. And the reason why I can say that is back in 2008, I went to a funeral. And I think I told you the story when I went to a funeral and I realized if I died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? And that's when I really kind of honed in on back then, like, I need to share my gift. Well, what is my gift? And I wrote my eulogy and I realized in my eulogy, my gift was to use my words and my actions to make this world a better place, to use that story, to use that experience of being homeless and all the thousands of people I've coached and spoken to over my life. I'm pretty sure I've heard every experience, like everything. I've heard things from women. I've heard, quadruple amputees, war veterans, and murderers. I had a guy that was on death row for 25 years. I've talked to him, so many people. And that was even before I had my shows. I've just been naturally curious about people. And I've realized that true key to success is being able to find that life isn't about pontificating about the past. Life isn't about, like you said, worrying about the future. Life is truly to be present in these moments because that's the gift of what we have. And it wasn't until I realized to live my life in a sense of gratitude rather than a sense of lack. Like, oh, I'll be happy when I make this money, or I'll be happy when I get this accreditation. I realized that I'm happy right now and to enjoy this period right now because there's no guarantee whether or not I'll get tomorrow. And so that's the way I live my life. And that's why I teach people to live their lives. And it works pretty damn good. So when I started seeing the signs, my belief in that all strengthened. And so I've continued to study that. And I've had a couple of other readings that have been pretty interesting and good. And people say, oh, I'm going to be on world stages and all that stuff. So as long as I'm living in that flow, I'm not fighting that flow. I'm not trying to make things what I want them to be, but I'm showing up when things present themselves. That's a pretty incredible way to live life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a really cool story that you experienced where you were like, yeah, okay, maybe, but then like in hindsight, you're like, hold on a second. There's something to this. And it's funny because so the way that I read, I don't do predictive type readings, but I've received them and I totally believe that psychics, they're able to pick up different timelines. That's the way that I see it. I think it's these are your potentials, right? Based on what you do in the now, this is where you can end up. Because I think that is always changing based on what we do in the now. Because that's just my own personal belief. A lot of what I do is more like meeting people where they are now and like looking at the present, and then this is where you're at, and then this is how to get where you want to go. That's my gift, right? But it comes through kind of similarly in the sense of confirmation and validation. I don't know these people, and yet I'm able to tell them energetically what they're dealing with and where they're at, and this is how to get where you want to go. But I think what they take from that is, oh, I'm not by myself. There is something bigger here. There's something else guiding me that's trying to get me to my next best self, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's what, the spiritual aspect is not only living presently, but also knowing that you're not alone, and knowing that there is something bigger that's actually kind of taking you along for the ride too.
Yes.
I love this quote. It says, I don't know who says it because it's on a podcast. I don't know if he made it up or what, but it's a great quote. That we live on the corner of destiny and free will. We have both, and right, like we have the free will to make excuses and not get up and go after our dreams. But destiny, I think there are things that still happen in our lives that it's our choice what we do with it. It
I've
sounds like,
debated so many people about that. Like, oh, Chris, and I've had very heated conversations with people with alcoholism, because I've had my bouts with being on the borderline of that in my early 30s. And I said, and I've told people, like, and I've become more understanding that the whole disease part of it is accurate. I've fought that for a long time, but I've always maintained the fact that I'm the one that's picking it up. I'm the one that's saying, okay. And the fact that people say they can't control it, I don't think they give themselves enough credit. And I've proven that with certain individuals who said they couldn't quit smoking. I used to smoke cigarettes. I was smoking 2 packs a day. I quit cold turkey. When you have a big enough why, you have a big enough how. I used to drink a lot, and then I slowed down drinking. I quit drinking last year, 3 months ago. And normally I'd quit for 2 months, 3 months, just to make sure that I'm in check. Every January, I always quit drinking until my birthday. But last year, I just decided, like, okay, I'm being incongruent. I'm being a hypocrite when I say that I want to be here until my son has kids, right? I'm going to be 55. My son's 7. Do the math. I got to be here for another 30 years, whatever it's going to be. So I'm going to be in my 80s. I'm going to be 85. So here I am drinking Jack Daniels like it's, water, because I've just got a high metabolism, and I can digest a lot of alcohol or drugs or whatever it might be. And I'm sitting here drinking this, and yet I'm saying I want to be around. And I started putting, the visualization factor into play that I teach my clients. Okay, if I continue doing X, what are the likely outcomes? Number one, nothing. I could be totally fine, never get liver failure, never get liver cancer, be totally great. Fine. Outcome number 2 is I could get liver failure, liver cancer, cirrhosis of the liver, my kidneys could fail. I could have any number of things happening because I'm literally drinking poison that is going into my body and changing my cells permanently in such a way that I can have cognitive decline. I could get Alzheimer's. I could, on and on and on. And so all of us have to, like you said, to that free will point, I wanted to speak to that in this, is that we do have that choice. Like, ask yourself, am I happy in this relationship? Yes or no? Don't maybe, don't sometimes. Am I really happy? If I'm not really happy, then I have to say no. Okay, what is it that I'm willing to take? What is it that I'm willing to sacrifice? What is it that I'm willing to invest to give this relationship the best I could possibly do? And then, am I okay with the outcome of it not working? Because ultimately, if I don't change, and if we don't get the things to change, nothing's going to change. Perhaps it's going to get worse, and then we're going to end up with regrets. And like I said before, when I talked to you on Wednesday, when I did that speech, the 5 regrets of the dying, I have the book right behind me. It's written by a hospice nurse. That number 1 regret is that we didn't live the life we wanted to live. We lived the life we thought we should live. Approaching 55, life goes by like that. Like, I literally remember 27. I remember all these things. And it's just like, what? Wait, my kid's 7? How did he go from 7? You know it. And so that's why the emphasis on this conversation, which I love that you're directing, is the fact that just be present. That's what I'm going to be talking about tonight. Those moments, those gifts, to give yourself the peace to say, look what I'm grateful for. I mean, that's how I start my day every single day. And people ask me, like, how do you stay so positive, Chris? How do you stay so energetic? And I'm like, and people think I'm like this all the time. And I'm like, no, there's actually a great thing they can watch on YouTube. It's called The Hero's Journey. It's the Joseph Campbell story. It's about an hour and 23 minutes. And it talks about how we all go through our ups and downs. It talks about the movies that we watch, Star Wars and Wizard of Oz and all these things where the underdog is going through these trials and tribulations. And we're rooting for the underdog. And what does he do? He comes home and he wants to tell everybody the tale he's been on. He wants to educate people on what he's seen and what he's heard and what he's done. If you guys watch that on YouTube, it's incredible. I had one of my coaching clients that was having a real tough time, came to me. They're my brand new coaching client. And I usually have a system of how I, take people through, but I was like, okay, this person, they're like, I'm just so sick of going through tough times, Chris. I'm so tired of it. I feel like I've been through tough times all my life. And so I said, watch this. And I actually watched it too with them. I watched it at the same time. I said, you know what? I haven't seen it in a couple of years. So I threw it on. I have a TV in front of me. And I sat there and watched it. And it's so beautiful to remind ourselves that the gifts and the things we should be grateful for are not the good times, right? I mean, that of course, be grateful for that. But again, we've survived 100% of the things that we've been through in our life. And if we look back and we have gratitude for those tough times, we have gratitude for that divorce, we have gratitude for that tough child labor, we have gratitude for being homeless, we have gratitude for the people that wronged us and screwed us over, because now we're more careful. Now we have better people in our circle. I'm grateful for those things, right? I'm grateful for those challenges. And so when I wake up in the morning to keep myself centered is I say what I'm grateful for the first thing. Before my eyes open, I'm grateful for my son sleeping in the room next to me. I'm grateful for the beautiful home that I own. I'm grateful for my animals sleeping on the bed. I'm grateful for the people who made the bed. I come up with new things every day. I'm grateful for the experience I get to have today with Sarah. I'm grateful for the podcast I get to do today. And then the second thing I do is I set my intention, right? Be intentional. We've said that so many times during this conversation. When you're intentional, my intention is to use my words and my actions to make this world a better place. That's the first thing I say. My intention is to be present and playful with my son. My intention is to be a great husband to my wife. My intention is to go out in the world today and make somebody smile just for me saying something that they didn't expect, whatever it might be. So as I'm going through my day, if I find myself having a pity party or being frustrated or being jealous, which I do, I'm human. I have those experiences. People think I don't. I just have the ability and the capacity to catch it, right? I can catch myself saying, "Oh, you're so stupid." Or, "No, Chris, you're not. You just didn't know what to do in this particular situation. You're not stupid. You're learning, you're growing." So the more we can catch ourselves, the more we can correct ourselves and sit there and realize, okay, I didn't set the intention to be miserable today. I didn't set the intention to let some car that cut me off get me mad for 20 minutes and yell at my kid. I didn't set that intention today. I set the intention today to be a good parent. Okay, so what can I do in this moment right now to be a good parent? What can I do in 5 minutes? Can I write a sticky note and go put it on my son's, bathroom mirror? Can I go do something right in this moment that fulfills that commitment, that intention, and then get reset with life and say, okay, what is it that I was doing? What is it that's going to move the needle on my professional life, my personal life, my spiritual life, my physical life, my financial life, and then get back in center and get committed to that, and then get back in the game. And it's pretty crazy how fast those experiences multiply, and you realize that even in those worst moments, that you're still going to learn and grow from that.
It's not about what happens to us, it's how we respond to it. And obviously, like you said, we're human, so we all falter, we all struggle. It also makes me think of the saying that says, we teach what we most need to learn. So many of the times, I know for me, speaking personally, like when I do readings, there are so many things that come through that I share that I'm like taking notes for myself, because I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do that too, And so I think sometimes people who look up to, whether it's a coach or someone like me, they think that we live this perfect spiritual or whatever life. It's like, no, we're human too. And we're also just doing the best we can. But that's really what it comes down to, is that intention and doing the best we can and remembering to do the best we can, even in difficult times, because that's the hard part.
Yes. And that's a key factor. I love that you brought that word up, because when so oftentimes we say we did the best we could, right? Oh, I did the best I could, but did we really do our best? And I caught myself probably about, 6 years ago now. I came home from work. I was putting my wallet, my stuff up on my dresser as I normally do. And I was thinking about my day. And I was sometimes I talk out loud to myself, and we can have that conversation too. But I sat there and I said, oh, I did the best I could. And then as I said it out loud, I sat there and I stopped. I'm like, Chris, was that really your best? Right? When you think about the words that we use, I've been on this kick now of defining them. Like if I'm having a conversation with somebody and there's a word that could have various meanings, I'm like, okay, Sarah, tell me your meaning of the word integrity, right? Because you may have a different word of integrity than I do. So let's make sure we're talking about the same thing. And so when I think about that, like, what was my best? Like if a film crew was watching me, did I do that good? Like if a film crew was following me, was that Christopher Rausch's best? That would probably be my best. No, that wasn't my best. So I got honest with myself, and I realized I'm sitting there telling myself that I'm doing the best I can, which is BS. And where did I get that phrase from? Again, from our conditioning. Oh, Chris, did you do your best on your homework? I did the best I could. Okay, do better next time. Nobody ever quantifies with us what our best is. Nobody quantifies what's better next time. And then we use that get out of jail card with ourselves all the time. Oh, I did the best I could in that relationship. Oh, I did the best I could with this thing. Oh, realistically, did we do the best we could? Because when we do our best and we have that discipline and we have that awareness to be able to judge ourselves and hold ourselves accountable to a higher standard, that's where things also start to shift as well.
Yeah. I think it's a balance of being able to show ourselves grace when we need it,
True.
But also not letting us off the hook when we also aren't ready, when we know we can do better.
Yes.
It's finding that balance.
How do you find that balance?
So for me, it's more just coming back to being intentional and mindful and giving myself grace when it has been a long day. For instance, earlier I mentioned I'm learning how to parent, right? Based on like my experiences, and now I'm trying to create a better experience for my daughter. There are moments where I react poorly and I beat myself up for it. And I have to kind of, in those moments, I'm like, okay, obviously I did not do the best I could. You know what I mean? But what can I do now? Now that there's a mess here, I can leave the mess. Like my parents would have just left the mess. In my experience growing up, if I got yelled at for something or got in trouble for something, they never came back and apologized if maybe they overreacted.
Yeah.
You know,
Nope.
it was very much they're the parent, I'm the child. I messed up. Even if they overdo it, it doesn't matter. I'm still in trouble. It's all on me. And so the difference now is that I will catch myself in those moments. So, okay, I can't undo what's been done.
Right.
But what I can do is repair. And what I can do is come and talk to her. Hey, what you did wasn't okay, but mommy should have responded better. And I shouldn't have done this, this, and this. So for me, it's I guess it's that grace card, because I don't really believe in regrets to a point, because I think that, well, I think living with regrets isn't healthy either. It's like, it's already done. You can't
Right.
undo it. So even those moments where maybe you realize, did I really do my best? I think that that's where the grace card comes in. It's being able to be like, okay, I didn't do my best. Why is that? Why didn't I do my best? And not come down with like a hammer, but come down with grace and sit with yourself. Like, okay,
Right.
this was a rough day. This was a rough time. Or maybe you had something else you were, that was distracting you. Come up with that grace and that forgiveness and then try again. Because I think that sometimes we can get caught up in shame. It gets harder and harder to do our best because we're being so hard on ourselves, right? So I think that that's the balance. And that's what I try to practice. When I know I didn't do my best, I try to start with grace. And then how can I repair, whether it's repairing a relationship or repairing something within myself, and then try again. Because I do think it is that careful balance of not going too hard on yourself, but also not letting yourself off the hook and having that accountability to not give up either.
True. That's why even as a coach, I have a coach and I have mentors. It's so massively important to have those people in your life that you check in with on a weekly basis. I run a group accountability coaching program where people have their accountability partners they meet with weekly, and then I meet with them twice a month in a Zoom setting. And so I do some teachable moments. But I have found more times than not, if we don't have anybody to talk to, if we're keeping it all inside, and yeah, I mean, we may be journaling and may talk to a friend every once in a while, but having that a weekly ability to sit there and, like with my clients, I talk about our wins, our challenges, and then our opportunities. So what were the wins for the week? Why did you have those wins? What were causing you to be in that state of flow? What were the challenges? What were the obstacles that perhaps you didn't plan for? What were the learning opportunities from those experiences? And then next thing, what are the opportunities to take from these experiences and to grow further from that? And so I think that's pretty important to have those people in our life, because then we can sit there and say, okay, hey, I have the situation. I'd love to get your opinion on it. And having those people in your life that are going to be truthful with you, right? Not just, oh, Sarah, you're great. You're a great mom. You're always so sweet. Like, no, Sarah, you need to get in control of that, because this is the third time you told me that you've gone off. Right. Having that friend that sits there and says, okay, have you got a parenting book? Have you joined a parenting group? You need friends that get in your butt a little bit that say, and they do that to me too. They do that to me, Chris. Oh, hey, you've been on this, like every once in a while I'll go on this cynical kind of thing where I get mad and I'll post and I'll just be honest. And I'm like, I'm just being free speech. Like, Chris, you're setting a tone that people aren't going to jive with you. It's very negative. It's deconstructive, So I have friends that reach out to me for I'm like, well, I'm just trying to be real. I don't want to be like all rainbows and sunshine all the time. And so they get that. And so, but they'll call me out and like, Chris, be careful with that. So having those people in our life is super, super important. My accountability partners, the weekly networking meeting that we're involved in, trajectory, making sure that we're showing up and being the best of ourselves. All of that's so important. We can't operate in a vacuum, and we can't be the smartest person in the room, which I used to be, which feels great. But ultimately, when I paid a lot of money to be around people who are smarter and brighter than me, I showed up a lot different. I showed up to the next level. I brought my A game. And when you have that leverage, it's pretty crazy, because so oftentimes we don't think that we have the capability of doing these things, right? But again, we survived 100% of the things that we've faced in our life. And most of those things were probably not planned, right? Whatever it was, we figured it out, and we will always figure it out. So we have to give ourselves that grace and that belief to do that, and to go live in those moments, but have the accountability and the edge that causes us to push it just a little bit more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this conversation has been amazing. How can my listeners find you if they want to work with you as a coach?
Absolutely. The easiest thing they can do is go to noexcusescoach.com. It's spelled how it sounds, or they can, if they want to find out more about me, they can just go Google hashtag, the little number sign, No Excuses Coach. Interviews will come up with me. But the best place is my website, because noexcusescoach.com has my YouTube channel where my podcasts are. One of my podcasts is Raw and Unscripted with Christopher Rausch. That's Tuesday nights. Then I have the Unfiltered Experience, which is tonight in 45 minutes. We're talking about how to be present in the moments. It's on YouTube. It's on my social media and everything else. But yeah, noexcusescoach.com is the best place to go about it. They can find a coaching tab. They can find everything and anything about me on my social media, everything.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, again, this has been a really wonderful conversation. Is there any last words you'd like to leave our listeners with before we stop the conversation?
I would just like to thank you. Thank you again, Sarah, for having me on. I appreciate it. I love doing fun interviews like this. You ask great questions. So thank you. Having the dialogue always keeps me present. The last thing I would say to people is the same thing that was said to me, is you are only limited by the parameters of your own mind, right? Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Right? Whatever we focus on is what we get most of. So if I tell people to look around the room and find everything that's red, you're going to say red, 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 red. And you're going to feel confident. I know where everything's red. What's blue? Well, Chris, you told me to look at what's red. The same thing in life, right? We get to look for those opportunities. I get to spend time with my son. I get to spend time. I get to do these things. If you catch yourself saying, I have to do stuff, I have to do this, I have to do that, you're not truly living your life. You're living somebody else's life. And when you take a step back from those and you change those have tos to get tos, and you stop tolerating some of that stuff, it's pretty incredible what it is that you can achieve. So I'm here for anybody who's listening to this conversation. I'd be happy to help. Let's just make this world a better place. Let's invest in our kids and our youth. Let's make this country and this entire global planet a more collaborative, loving place so that we can leave it for our kids to be inspired by and not have to clean up after ourselves. So Sarah, it's been an honor to be with you. I appreciate it. And I look forward to more conversations.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me on another inspiring episode. Remember, your purpose is a unique and unfolding path. I hope these conversations have ignited a spark within you. Until next time, keep exploring, growing, and embracing the beautiful adventure of connecting with your purpose. Stay tuned for more meaningful conversations. If you're wanting more, consider joining our free Facebook community called Spirit Journey Collective, your haven for spiritual exploration and personal growth. Dive into a supportive community where sharing spiritual experiences is encouraged. Unlock the power of intuition, embark on a journey of self-discovery, and connect with like-minded souls. If this sounds like a community you'd love to plug into, the link is in the show notes below. If you enjoyed the episode today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for joining me on this journey.